Hey, party people. Today is cold out in Louisiana. It's normally not cold out. I feel like Jersey out here today. I actually have the coat on. I think this is I've been here 2 years. I think this is the second time I had to put the coat on. But I want to come on today because I am so tired of hearing Christians just take scripture out of context and make it say whatever they want it to say. For example, they are convinced that Jesus took the 10 Commandments and turned it into 2. He turned it into love God and love your neighbor. But they take this from a conversation. This is why it's important that you cannot take scripture out of context. You have to read the entire chapter to see what the scripture is talking about. What is going on at the time. Now, the scripture where they say, oh, Jesus said there was only 2 commandments that's important. That is not the conversation. That is not what was going on. What was going on was that he was teaching and the Pharisees was trying to find a way to trip him up. So they was asking him certain different questions. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that start off with the chapter start off with the lady who they would get ready to stone because she was an adulteress, and he said, let those without sin cast the first stone, and nobody cast the first stone. But then it goes on later on, he's doing other teachings, and then finally this is where they come up with this whole idea that Jesus changed the 10 Commandments to 2. One of the Pharisees, who happened to be a lawyer, asked him a question. It was a question. He said, what do you think is the greatest commandment? He asked the question. What do you think is the greatest commandment? And Yeshua, aka Jesus, answered and said, love God with all your heart, with all your mind, all your soul. And then he added a second one. He said, and one that's just as important is to love thy neighbor. Because if you do those 2 things, then you do the rest of them. The rest of them will become easy for you. He didn't do away with anything. He didn't throw away anything. He didn't say anything. And then what makes it even crazier, they'll say, oh, but that meant everything except honor the Sabbath. Which makes no sense because he said, love God with all your heart, all your mind, your soul. If you do those things, then you'll do the first 4 things. You won't put any God before him. You won't create any idols. You'll honor the Sabbath to keep it holy. You'll do those things because you love God with all your heart. So how do you skip over that one and all the rest of them apply? It makes no sense. The logic behind what they say is absolutely crazy. It makes absolutely zero sense. Straight crazy. Now listen. Jesus was not doing away with any commandments or any laws or anything. Laws are what you have to do to obey God. If there's no laws, that means there's no sin, because the only way to sin is to break the law. So if you're convinced that there's no sin, if you're convinced that there's no laws, then you're convinced that there is no sin. And if you think that there's no sin in this world, then I don't know what world you live in. You're not living in the same world that I live in every day, because there's sin everywhere you look, everywhere you turn, there is sin. So breaking the law means that you have transgressed from the Torah, and the Torah means law, and that's the only way to sin. So there's no way that he's done away with sin. Sin has not been done away with. You can still sin, and you sin by breaking the laws, by not obeying God's laws. So when he was having a conversation, talking to somebody, and somebody said, hey, what do you think is the greatest commandment? He didn't say, moving forward, this is the only commandment. These 2 are the only ones. No, you can't take stuff and then just make it into whatever you want it to say. That's not how it works. He just was having a conversation. He answered. He said, these are the greatest 2. The guy asked for only 1. But he gave him 2. He said, love God, love your neighbor. Those are the greatest 2 commandments. That's it. That's it. That's it. So go and sin no more. Have a blessed day.